learning tools for beginner birders, and these materials are available in English and 10 more Indian languages. And they're all available for download for free. You can also purchase them from our online store. So let me just put it in the chat for those of you who would like to check it out. So free download on our website, and you can also take printed resources from our store. Secondly, we also do trainings. So we provide training and support to educators across the country through various sessions like this one. And we do a lot of outreach activities as well, which is called our Young Birders Network. And we nurture the next generation of young birders. We do several in-person events and online events and workshops. And one such workshop is the Young Birders Workshop. And Early Bird has been conducting this workshop since 2021. And more than 250 children have been a part of this workshop since 2021. So we started as an online workshop during the summer vacations. And the workshop encourages children to understand birds beyond just identification. And for the first time this year, the Young Birders Workshop has expanded to 4 batches in 4 cities. So Bengaluru, Mumbai, Kolkata, and Salem. So these workshops were led by independent educators, and they used the Young Birders Workshop Guide and several other early bird materials to design their programs. And in case you're wondering, they were all paid workshops. So I assume that in the audience, we have many educators who are already conducting workshops in their cities or are interested in doing workshops. So we are discussing the learnings that came out of these workshops today. And joining me are 2 brilliant educators. We have Megha Gupta, who has conducted a workshop in Mumbai, and she is an AI professional and a nature lover and an educator at heart. She finds working with children immensely rewarding and considers it a learning experience for herself as well. Welcome, Megha. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Shruti. Hi, everyone.
And we also have Chandu Bandi, who conducted the workshop in Bengaluru. And he's also a nature enthusiast who loves sharing stories about the interconnectedness of living things. He has extensive experience of conducting bird walks for both children and adults. Welcome, Chandu.
Thanks, Megha. Thank you all for joining.
Okay, and I will also be a part of the panel. My work focuses on organizing bird-themed events for children, and I have led 2 online batches of the Young Birders Workshop. So I'll be chiming in with pros and cons of the online format. We are missing 2 facilitators here in the session today. That is Titash, who took the batch in Kolkata, and Angeline, who led the batch in Salem. So I will try to bring in some of their unique learnings as well as we discuss forward. So, but before we dive into learnings and challenges, I want to ask you both, Megha and Chandu. It was your first Young Birders workshop. So, how was your experience? What did you think? Megha, you can go first.
Yeah, so I have always loved teaching children. I have worked with children before in robotics and coding, and more recently around nature. And I love birds. So this was a great opportunity for me to combine 2 of my passions. I really literally jumped at the opportunity to conduct such a workshop. And yes, and as expected, it was a lot of fun. Kids bring such a unique perspective and such infectious energy to whatever you do with them. I got to spend a lot of time with them outdoors, and the best part, I think my most favorite part of the workshop was when they excitedly pointed out birds to me, and they also got super excited just like me. So whenever I see a bird, my family thinks I'm a little crazy, but they were like that with me, so I was really happy. And another thing that made me happy was that in the post workshop feedback, the feedback that parents give, they were not just about the learning that happened in the workshop, but also about other softer qualities like encouraging curiosity and their endurance to attend the sessions through the heat and humidity of Mumbai, and waking up early in morning even during their summer vacations. So and the willingness to explore different birding locations without their parents. So that was also a great takeaway for me. Chandu,
Awesome.
you
That's
want to go next?
Yeah, I may sound repetitive of what Megha said, but I also enjoy working with children, especially taking them out in nature walks and with birds or even beyond birds. So obviously, I enjoyed most. Don't know about the participants, but I personally feel I enjoyed a lot because the kind of questions, the energy that they bring in to the sessions, and the impromptu things that they do. Like you would have seen Libot posted a video of a girl mimicking a coil so flawlessly. One of the participants in the workshop, right? That kind of stories that we experienced during workshop made it a really great experience, and also it also pushed me to go back to fundamentals of birds because some information so like we did some exercise of mind mapping and things like that when we started the session. So that the kind of questions they asked were so good that it helped me go back and read up a little more about some of the things, because learning is not it's a journey, it's not a destination where it's just say that I am done with learning things. So that was one of the interesting takeaways. And one of the walks we did, I think the last walk we did with the group, we were all at a lake watching the small blue kingfisher, and it put up such a great show. Everybody was just mesmerized watching it, hunting, and then catching the fish, and then failing to hunt. All that drama we got just for 20 minutes. The kid came out at the end of the session and said, "I didn't. The 20 minutes felt like 2 minutes," and I thought, okay, that made my day. Like that fact that they could watch birds or be in nature and spend time without even knowing that which that they have spent quality time out watching. And that was one of the interesting things that made me felt good. Otherwise, the energy also, like how they're helping each other. Very soon they found, of course, initially they don't know each other. They're all total strangers kept in their room for indoor sessions, and then slowly they picked up and then they opened up. It is an amazing experience.
Yes, I agree. I think we learn more from kids sometimes than they learn from us. And it's so nice to listen to their questions and some question that we have never thought about before. And I think the energy of the facilitator is contagious. So kudos to you both for for making those kids interested in birds, and hopefully they'll continue. My experience of the online sessions was that I really like the workshop is designed in a way where it focuses on observation so that children start noticing things themselves. And it's very satisfying when parents come and say that children are now noticing birds, they're listening to birds. And not only birds, but also insects and snails and crabs. And I think the workshop itself helps not only in gaining knowledge, but it kind of changes the behavior of children where children start noticing the natural world. I think that's like the biggest win for me, and I hope it stays with them for a long time. And another thing I really like is when parents tell that the participants have got the parents and the siblings also interested in nature, and now everyone is going out for birding. So that's amazing. Okay, so this was just our personal experiences. Let us talk about how we planned and executed our workshops. So the first step for all of us was to decide the format of the workshop. So the Young Birders workshop can be adapted to any format you like, and we had four different formats this year. In the online batch that we ran, we do 10 sessions over a period of a month, which is entirely on Zoom, and we have two classes per week. What the parents appreciate about this format is that the child can attend this class even if they're traveling or they're going to their grandparents' place. And if they miss a session, they can always come back and see the recording. So that worked really well for the online batch. But of course, we could not do bird walks, unfortunately, like you both did. So they are very different structures. So, Chandu, what was your format and how did it work, and what were your learnings?
Why? Because I was doing it in person for the first time, though I did walks for children, but a proper workshop structure I'm doing for the first time. So what I did is I planned 3 weekends, Saturday and Sundays, both days. Where Saturday it's in-house discussion and then exploring about birds and more of using the materials and games to engage them and make them get interested in birds. That happened on Saturday, and Sunday is followed up by a field trip. So that's how I planned it. Where Saturday, my idea was to whatever we learn or understand on Saturday, let's try to put it in the field on a Sunday. So for instance, calls on one session, the next day in the outing, we concentrated more on the calls as well as looking at the birds. So I started that way. So 3 hours on a Saturday morning and 3 hours on a Sunday morning. Though, of course, there were some challenges with that. I From the participant side, one of the challenges is that parents have to bring them without fail, despite of their personal commitments and other things. That was not easy because some of them had guests coming in holidays, so they had their cousins coming in. Kids were also taught between the session, and so I had a kid who brought their cousins along, where the cousins are waiting outside and the kid is doing the workshop inside in house. And that was one of the challenges that from the parents side and from my side also. Obviously, you can pretty much guess whether the indoor or outdoor, which one the kids prefer. Obviously, the outdoor ones, they all want to be out more than the in-house session. So one of the feedback that came in was, can we have more sessions outside? So the takeaway for me is, when I'm going to plan it, probably I have to extend it by one more weekend and have at least one more outdoor session. So we get to handhold them a little longer, and they get to watch and be more observant and ask more questions. So that's one of the takeaways from that. But the format, the interesting thing is the kids were the parents were saying they were energetic, that they want to attend the workshop, they don't want to miss it. So much that they had to, like I said, they had cousins coming and they just brought the cousins around. so that enthusiasm was really nice.
Awesome. Okay. And how was your format, Megha?
So my sessions were completely outdoors. I planned for 8 sessions, and they were 1.5 hours each in the morning, and they were spread over 2 weeks. So 8 sessions spread over 2 weeks. So 4 sessions per week, which in hindsight was a little too much. I next time I would space them apart a little bit more. And but the reason I planned it this way was because, again, like during summer vacations, a lot of families have travel plans, and making sure that all participants will be available for a whole month was tricky. It didn't seem like it would happen, so that is why I tried to do 2-week workshops. Uh, that got a little too hectic, and also the morning timings were selected based on the weather here, uh, and the convenience of the participants. Some of them were coming from really far away, so it shouldn't be too early or too late, otherwise it gets too hot. So that's why I did it from 8:30 to 10 a.m. in the mornings. And yeah, my learnings, my takeaways from choosing this format is, again, as I said, I think the hybrid session with a mix of online and field sessions would be the best way to go forward, at least the way I conducted them. Because for imparting certain kinds of like the theory part, or when you want to show videos, you can't do that outdoors that much. And also sometimes kids are too distracted outdoors. So and it would also reduce the intensity of the workshop if some sessions are done online. It would be more convenient for parents also, not having to bring the kids every time far away. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So Titash actually did that. So Titash, who conducted the batch in Kolkata, he did 5 sessions. He started with an outdoor session, then did 3 online sessions, and where he discussed the theory bits, and then he took them out again on an outdoor walk. So that is again one format that can be explored. And but Angeline in Salem, she did a completely outdoor batch, and hers worked well because I think she had 2 different habitats where she could take the children. She was sure about which birds will be there and what kind of bird behaviors they could see. So it really depends upon on your city, the city's weather, your participants. So you can plan your workshop and choose a format which works best for your city, your the weather, and your participants and you, right? So whichever based on your timings as well. So after we
Shruti,
choose,
just want to add to that. I think the weather plays a very important role. And the
yes.
holidays, right? because just want to share how it worked well for me for Bangalore in May is when kids finished their holidays and then came back, and weather was also pleasant. So
Right.
I think you're right. The weather and the holidays has to be thought through.
Right. Yes. We had planned a workshop in Delhi as well, but we couldn't do it because it was just too hot in Delhi and children didn't want to come outdoors in the heat. Yeah. So after you choose a format, the next step is to plan the logistics and the content of the workshop. So for the content of the workshop, the Young Birders Workshop Guide is an excellent reference, and I'm just going to put the link here. It's available for download on our website. Hmm. Sorry, just a second. And you can also purchase a printed copy if you like. It has the entire workshop structure depending on which format you use. It has lesson plans, PPTs, games, activity sheets, assignments. It has everything as a step-by-step guide. It is available for you to use, and like it's a great first step. Like just pick it up and just look through it. And So that's the first thing that will help you in this session. Apart from that, there are several other teaching aids also, which each instructor uses and which has worked for them. So let's ask our facilitator. So Megha, what were the teaching aids that helped you to conduct your session better?
Yeah, so the early bird kit was great, absolutely. Thanks for arranging that. It's very well put together, very well thought out. The two most useful resources I found in the kit were the flashcards and the pocket guides. So flashcards, I think, are great because the children, but I like to use them once the children have seen the birds with their own eyes first. And then, they can observe more details about it on the flashcard. There's interesting tidbits about the bird on the backside. So, uh, and they can, having flashcards handy can also help them identify birds later on their own. So, and many kids in my batch, they also enjoyed using the pocket guides. They liked the part where they spotted a bird, they had to find it in the pocket guide, find out its name, its size, and other things like that. So, I think pocket guides are also very handy. And as for binoculars or scopes, I think scopes can be very useful. I didn't have one for my batch. For young kids especially, using binoculars is a little difficult. They don't know how to aim at the right thing, and with birds especially, they fly away before you know it. So then they get more frustrated. So in my case, although some kids were bringing their own binoculars, uh, we didn't end up using them much because it was much easier to observe the bird with our own eyes and notice its shape and size and its habitat, noticing it in fully in its own habitat. Uh, yeah, I think those were the things that I found useful.
Okay. Just before we move to Chandu, any games or anything else that you use which was effective for your batch?
Yes, games I think are a great tool. I did borrow a lot of games from the guide, early bird guide, and adapted them to the uh, age group and the mix of children I had. But bird bingo is always a hit, even if the children have played it before. They always like to, today what will we spot? So they are always excited about marking those, checking off those birds on the bird bingo sheet. And bird survivor game, though we played it later after we had covered concepts like life cycle, or covered all the themes, we played it after that, and they really enjoyed it. So I feel maybe next time, I would like to bring in bits and pieces of that game as we are going through different themes. It can be played in again and again. And Also, we assigned bird names in the very first session. So everyone had to choose a bird name for themselves. For example, if I'm Megha, I chose like Maina Megha. So they had to, and so they really grew fond of their bird names by the end of the workshop. They were calling each other by those names, and they were really excited when they spotted a bird of their name. So yeah, bird names also works well.
That's amazing. Okay, and Chandu, what was your experience? What were the tools that you used to keep everybody engaged?
So first thing because I had previous experiences with bird walks, I didn't give them a single pocket guide till the third session. I asked them to sketch it up with whatever you see, what details you could see, just sketch it up. I had carried only one pocket guide with me, which I showed them saying that, can you find the bird? That's how I usually operate. Because what I had noticed earlier was the moment you give the pocket guide, they look at the pocket guide, not at the bird, because the bird is right in front of you, and they're like, do a match. Okay, which one is this? Which one is this? So what I practiced, what I insisted for all of them is that let's watch the bird before it flies. So we all spend time watching, make notes. Then I just nudge them, like, look at the eye, because I know the bird earlier. That's where the knowledge of an educator comes in. Like, for example, beater, can you check the eye? It has, black line running. So those fine details I used to point out. I won't tell what it is, but can you observe the eye and see what is there? Then they used to go and, yeah, I see a black line running, right? So those kind of details I nudge for them. And then after that, we open the pocket guide and see when everybody had a good look at it, and then open the pocket guide and say, hey, can you find out which bird is this? Then they will, because they have to recollect all the features, and then they kind of point and say, hey, this is the bird that we had seen. And we all agree. Obviously, there'll be debates. Oh, why not this? Why not this? And then it's not easy. So usually I usually go ask them, why do you think this? Then there's a long discussion. Somebody says, no, I seen this feature. So that's how the discussion goes. And that's for the pocket guides. But I borrowed that beak game, the beak and the food choice, that I have used that they had fun. Obviously, there are some of them which they don't know, but we intentionally kept it so that they know that there are more than what they already know, that they can explore and learn. So Ibis Bill, nobody knew that the beak is different. So those kind of things, intentionally kept it so that they should also know that there are things beyond what they see around that they may be willing to learn. And we also played, again, I want to call out that I have used AI to generate some games as well, especially for silhouette. So what I did is a silhouette game. The previous week, I know what birds they had seen. So I listed the bird and asked AI to generate a silhouette of all those birds. So generate a silhouette of those birds, and I put it in the class and asked them to guess. They could connect to most of them. None of them have names, so it's just silhouette, right? And then they had fun figuring out. And there was, for example, the barbet, they had a long debate. Is this the barbet or woodpecker? Is barbet? Then one kid pointed, look, the beak is very like a barbet. Then I was like, okay, then the objective is met. Then initially, though we didn't use, but later on we used the pocket guides. They're handy. They're all fond of their pocket guides, and then go referring to it. And also regarding equipment, I had a friend from whom I borrowed some binoculars. Rakesh, my friend, who was kind enough to give his binoculars. So almost every child had a binoculars, thankfully. Some already had, which they brought in. And we spent some time teaching them how to use binoculars, because some of them, though they are using for quite some time, they're not sure. Some of them totally new with binoculars. They've been seeing birds around their home. So we spent some time teaching them how to use binoculars and insisted them to get used to it. Because once the session is over, they won't get access to scope. And we used, we did 2 walks in the lakes, because the birds are big enough, they can see it. And just appreciate, no matter what you tell, say, look, that beautiful, this lake, this color, right? Unless they look through the scope, they won't, again, this is my personal opinion, that their perception of the bird changes. So I had a scope, so there's a competition for a scope. I want to see through the scope. Then I had to line them up and say, hey, can you wait, but let others see. And sometimes before the other person sees, the bird flies away. So there are many challenges, but so that's why I say whoever can see through binocs, look through it, and whoever can look through scope, especially the new bird, relatively new beginners, I made sure they look through scope. There's kids, some of them already seen the bird. For them, I said, okay, you look through binocs since you already seen it before. And then we had some fun. But definitely scope make a lot of difference for water birds because they're so far away, some of them, unless they get to see the bird, right? You're not probably able to do justice to that. So in my experience, binocs and scope work really well. But of course, having said that, there's one telebird that just landed right above everybody's head in a tree. And then everybody just kept the binocs down and then started looking up and had a good setting of a telebird up close.
Nice. Yeah, it's so nice when birds come close
Yeah.
and you don't have to use binoculars. So Angeline from Salem, when she did her bird walk, she was saying that she had binoculars and scopes, but once the children see through a scope, they don't want to use binoculars anymore, like you said, Chandra. So I think that balance is important. I think what we didn't touch upon is volunteers. So I know both of you also had volunteers, and I think the other facilitators also had some volunteers. So I think if you have more than, I think, 5 to 6 children, it's a good idea to have at least one volunteer. And in the online sessions, we have usually around 20 children in the batch, but it's much easier to handle online. But we still have two facilitators for every batch. So if you're conducting a session and if you think more than 5 people are going to come, please get somebody to help you. And sometimes, like if you can get like a young birder to help you, like one of the facilitators had a young birders workshop, Alam, from 5 years back, come for his session, and children were very happy to listen to a 16-year-old. And it was almost like having a young role model. So if you can nurture some young birders to help you and volunteer in your batches, that will be amazing. And talking about the online session once more, there are online, of course, there are a lot of tools that you can use. We use Zoom polls, we have presentations, we have lots of videos. It's really easy to show things online versus in the field. So a combination can work really well. Okay, so now moving on. So we have the format, we have the content, and the next step is to actually conduct the workshop. Even if you have all the materials, there can still be a lot of challenges. So let's discuss some of those challenges. Megha, what were your biggest challenges and how did you overcome them? And what's your advice for folks who are doing the next first workshop?
Yeah, so there are four main themes to be covered in the workshop, and my biggest challenge was covering all the themes in 8 sessions. I think the content is vast, and especially for an outdoor workshop where we were constantly distracted by birds and other things happening around us. Uh, it was difficult to keep the attention of children for so long, and explain complex concepts to them. They just wanted to walk around and look at birds, right? Uh, so that was one of my biggest challenge, and the other one was also, in my batch at least, most of the kids had registered with another friend, so there was always someone who they knew. And especially during the later sessions when kids had settled down in the workshop, they knew each other better. There was a lot of goofing around and chit chatting happening through constantly, right? So they and the amazing thing is that they are listening to you with one ear, but they're also talking. So you ask them a question, they'll give you the answer, but then how they do that, I don't know. So there was this constant background noise of chit chat. That was my another biggest challenge. I don't think I was able to overcome any of these very effectively in this batch. But what I tried was, one, for the chit chat, I kept my sessions very, very interactive. So there was no point where they were they could completely switch off. They had to be involved. I would ask them questions, and that a little bit tackled the chit chat problem. And for the content, I just let it be. I mean, I didn't push too much if everything was not getting covered. There is always, there will always be more to learn when it comes to birds and nature. Even I mean, I learned a lot in the workshop. So when I saw them getting impatient, I just and we just went on a bird walk, and I didn't push that. So yeah, I think those were the two things. And going forward, I would probably, as I said, I would like to try out the hybrid mode, in which case I hope that through videos and through, just because it's online, some of the theory can make way to them better. And then, of course, the field sessions then remain, just become about games, outdoor games, and watching birds. That's all.
Thanks, Megha. Chandu, how was your experience? What were your challenges?
One of the challenges balancing the learning and the pace between experienced and relatively. I'm not saying everybody's experienced. Of course, this workshop we conducted for children who already know common birds, but despite of that, some of them are very good with theory. Right? They haven't seen the bird, but they know all the details. Like everybody knows live bird in the whole class, thanks to social media, right? So the challenge is to when we go out and see the bird, like uncle, I've seen this before. It's okay. And but then they say that, but then when the scope is set up, they want to see fast. So how do we balance this between both experience? So it was a challenge that I had to deal with. So I tried a couple of things. So I told them children that, hey, if you already seen this bird, you let your friend watch first, because some of them may be watching it for the first time or may have seen it only in pictures. So that took a little bit of nudging, but finally it kind of worked out. But then having their binoculars also helped them to see the bird. But then still there's always this rush to look through scope. But then other thing is when you talk about birds which is common, which they have already seen, and the others don't know the names, so they just throw the names and then put facts and all that. Then I said, yeah, I think I personally feel we should encourage them to do that, so that they get their confidence of things and then share it with their peers. So I had also took help of two volunteers, what Shruti was saying. So some cases where some of the participants were already knowledgeable, and then there's just blurting out all the names. So I split them into groups. So I took help of the volunteer and asked them to accompany the relatively newer birders, so that they're slightly away and we're all together and get hand-holded in what to watch and what features to look for. So that kind of helped them slightly isolate, at the same time have a hand-holding. So that really helped us in tackling that challenge. But it's still, there is work in progress, and still we can do a little more probably. And the second challenge would be some content. It's a lot of content, honestly. That content, bridging and simplifying it such that I had taken age groups between 8 and 14. So balancing that, making it simple, not too scientific, and then allowing them to share if somebody has more information, help. But I felt when the feedback came, somebody thought that, okay, some of that went way above my head, some was okay. So then I wanted to go back and refine the content, see if something is going too much above their head, and have to refine that. So those couple of learnings that I had.
Yeah, thanks, Chandu. I think similar learnings came from our other sessions also. So some of the topics like bird behavior and life cycle of a bird are pretty vast, like Megha said. So Titash, what he did in the life cycle was, instead of just telling theory of the life cycle of a bird, he first asked children how the life of a bird is very similar to the life of a human, and he built that emotional empathy first, and then introduced what are the similarities and then what are the things that birds do differently. Another facilitator helped in, basically what he did is, instead of trying to see so many birds, he just concentrated the entire session on two bird species. So even if there are beginners in the session, if you're only talking about two species of birds, they may not get overwhelmed. But that is a challenge if you have participants who have different knowledge and also different age groups. Balancing that in a way that it works for everyone can be a challenge. For us in the online session, there is a lot of chit chat. Megha, it happened real time for you. For us, it happened in the Zoom chat, and then And like Megha said, children can multitask. They can listen to you and chat at the same time. So Tanmay and Amrita, who were helping me with the session, were constantly monitoring the chat throughout the online sessions. And for us as well, games worked really well. We had two games which were a big hit, which was one was Bird Pictionary. The children really enjoyed making that. And in the last class, we actually played Bird Pictionary for, I think, 1.5 hours. And children just kept generating more and more and more bird Pictionaries. We also had bird charades, where a lot of interesting bird behaviors came. So, like dumb charades, but you have to behave like a bird, and everyone else has to guess the bird. So, that's again really fun. So, that's something that you all could use. Okay, so these were our learnings and challenges. And like coming to the final topic of our discussion, which is a bit of an emotional reflection, and Chandu brought this up in one of our meetings last week. So, Chandu, you noted that a parent told you that sometimes children who like nature may feel isolated because there are not a lot of children who like nature and everyone else is talking about sports or video games and stuff. So can you tell us a little more about it and your thoughts on what can
Sure.
be done?
Sure. So one of the recurring themes I've been noticing, I've been hearing from parents also, especially from those parents whose children are connected to nature, right? It could be again, this is not just specific to birds, but in general about nature. It could be birds, it could be insects. So I had a couple of instances where the child is very interested in it, and they see something. For example, there's a class going on, or the children go out in a place, to the play, and then there'll be a beautiful bird, and he or she would be looking at the bird. The rest of the class would be in their own world, and then he or she wants to share that. Hey, look, there's a let's say a Paris fly catcher. Look, and then he looks around. There's nobody who could be listening to him and share his joy, right? That's one of the things. And second thing is they get mocked at times, saying, "Oh yeah, ye to nature wala, jungly wala," right? Kind of thing. And then they, so some of them are caught between, "Am I okay? Is there something wrong?" And I know a child who went to extreme where he stopped doing what he's interested and started pursuing what others are interested in, like it could be cricket and it could be football, so that he has a topic to share with them and then get along, make friends, basically, right? Otherwise, everybody talks about football and they say, "Do you notice?" Just a casual conversation. "Did you watch the yesterday's cricket match or a football match?" And then this child is totally isolated, like out of the conversation. So those kind of instances I heard, and some of them were okay, some of the children, because it helps if the parent at least opens the window for them to listen to the stories. If not, even if they're not understand what bird it is, right? So that kind of support, if they have, that'll be great. And also taking them out and exposing them to adults and children who are have a similar interest probably is what I feel bring that thing that they what they like is okay. There's nothing wrong in it, or it's okay to have their own interests. So that's something we spoke in our workshop also towards the end. Along this happened along with parents as well as children. We spoke about openly saying that it's okay to be connected with nature, be appreciative of nature. But I think as a community also, we need to provide them opportunities, because workshop is not something that happens every week or every day or sorry, every year. You don't know. These are random things that can happen. What happens after that? So they did the workshop, they go and then say, "Hey, you know what, I know a little more about this." But then there's nobody else to share, right? So, but we need to, as educators, I think we need to provide that platform from them for them to come and express, showcase the skills. I know everybody is doing some of the things, but as a community, we have to relook at this and say, "Hey, are there enough opportunities or spaces for them to come express themselves and don't feel that they're alienated. They're the only ones who are interested in it, and nobody seems to be interested in the world about birds or bees or ants or whatever, right?" So that's one challenge I think we all should look at addressing and find different ways as educators to see how we can provide that platform for them so that they don't feel left out, or you can call it peer pressure, or there are different names of looking at it, right? So that's one thing I wanted to see as educators, how we can help children connected to nature to feel that okay, they are also part of this, and it's okay to be connected to nature.
Thanks, Chandu. Yeah, that's a very insightful thought that came out of this workshop. Megha, what are your thoughts about continuing engagement with young birders and the folks that you did the workshop with?
Yeah, so I already think that this should not just be a summer workshop. I feel it can be made a year-long workshop. There is always more to learn. And so if there is continued engagement, as Chandu said, right, you can conduct bird walks, but you can also continue the workshop, the theory parts, once a week or once in 2 weeks. That would also ensure that often it happens that children get disconnected with such themes once the workshop is over because they just get too busy in their lives. But if there is a means of them to stay engaged, then it in the long run, of course, they will become independent birders eventually, right? And I think one more thing, maybe engaging with schools could be a good idea, because then you are working with children at a large scale. You are working with all the classmates together. So the concern that Chandu mentioned would get mitigated in some way, because then there are a lot of peers who are learning about it. And hopefully with these young birders workshops, slowly we can build a culture of, we can normalize this, that being a nature person or a bird person is nothing odd, right? And it is something actually beautiful, and involving, maybe having slightly older kids, teenagers, 14 plus maybe, also conduct workshops, conduct bird walks, letting them help you out on bird walks could be a good way to make them feel good about what they have learned and not feel like not feel that isolation, and also get other kids excited about this thing. So yeah, those are some ideas I have.
Thanks, Megha. I agree. I think um, birding should slowly become cool, and it should not be something unusual, right? And if there are some role models, like you said, like a 14-year-old or a 16-year-old who is like cool, and he also, or he or she also does birding, like that will be great. So on even in the online sessions, we see that participants become friends, even if it's an online session. They feel like they belong. And I'll just tell you a verbatim feedback that we got from one of the participants. She said, "I'm very lucky to join this course and super lucky to have teachers like you. I am very happy. I feel like I am with the right people where I belong." So I think that's a big thing, and that's what Chandu was also talking about, that feeling of belongingness, like I belong to this group, and they're all bird nerds. That's something that as educators, it's our responsibility probably to provide, right? So what we do at Early Bird after our Young Birders workshop is that we have monthly webinars which are about nature and birds, and where we invite all of them. But then again, there's not so much of interaction. The interaction has to happen on ground, and that's where we depend on educators like everyone in this session to create that. We do have a webinar tomorrow by Chandu about interesting insects, if any of you want to join. It's at 11:30 tomorrow on Zoom. Okay, so that was the end of our panel discussion. If any of you have been on the fence about starting a nature program or a young birders workshop in your town, I hope that today's insights have given you the confidence to launch a workshop soon. And remember, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to start from scratch. We already have a guide which has step by step everything that you need to do. You just need to execute it. There will be challenges, of course, but as you work on it and as you do one or two workshops, you will figure it out. So we have around 10-15 minutes more, and we'll be happy to take any questions. You can either drop them in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask us.
Well, the question comes, just want to add up on to what you mentioned, Shruti. So that is where having a young birder as a volunteer to help you with the workshop really helps, because they look up at somebody slightly older than them who's already into birding, who is already out in nature and helping them, right? That children can look up to them and say, hey, here is somebody who is who is already into birders. I'm not the only one, and so that sets a right role model. And in my case, also the couple of volunteers who helped me in the workshop, or they're all like teenagers, so they help me spot the bird, because I'll be talking to the children and talking about one particular bird. The next bird, they get it ready. They even set up the scope. So that became very handy, because they prepare things and help it. And they also had their fun of watching birds and bird behavior.
Yes, thanks, Chandu. Yes, having a role model, and especially if it's somebody older, that will be great. Okay, Raj Kunwar has a question. Raj, you can
Hi,
unmute. Yes.
so this is my daughter's name. I am from Mysore. This is Pallavi. I also teach at one of the architecture college. But by passion, I am a landscape architect, and I wanted so badly to learn birds and their behavior. So I started looking at this from past 7 years, and now I am conducting bird workshops for the schools who need this extra curriculum which is not added, like the Jilla Parishad schools. So I have been doing this from past 3 years, and this would be my fourth year. And I've been going for bird walks also. What I realized, if you pair the students with their age group, and with the young, the one which are with fresh minds, and the one who have already been with your workshop, if you make them in a groups and you prepare them before you start the workshop, like 10-15 minutes, you make them do some meditation, or you alarm them, this is not going to be just a random session, but you train them or structure them, then they listen to you. And yes, volunteer does help. So we started with our backyard with a small space. Like, we started with woodland area, because then in woodland area, you don't have so many birds to spot immediately. But yes, you have one bird to give that time, and then they also observe, and that observation give them some time patiently to see and look around. I think that's where I understood that the small scale thing really works, and then take them to a wetland birds, because the minute I took them to Kukarelli Kere, everyone was like, oh, I see this bird, that bird. Then you get so carried away that you cannot concentrate how to navigate their energies and put them down. Okay, yeah, we understood. And it really loses your focus also. So that's something. And I have also conducted few exercises which are with the litters, with the leaf falls, and then with the thumb impression. So it was really nice to see their young minds and curious minds to come up with such an inventive collages. And that was in a short time, like briefly 10 minutes they spend in foraging, and briefly 10 to 15 minutes they just put it out. And it really did wonders, and I have good captures which I can share. Yeah, that's all I have from my side.
Thanks, Pallavi, right?
Yes, Pallavi.
Thanks, Pallavi. Thanks for sharing. That's a very unique and different perspective, because we always talk about taking children to wetlands because it's easy to see birds there. But we should try. I will try that out, taking them to a woodland first and making them observe versus overwhelming them with wetland birds. Amazing. Yeah, thumbprint is
Yeah.
also a very fun activity. Thumbprint birds. Thanks for sharing.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing, Pallavi.
Thank you.
Shruti, there's a
Thanks,
question in
Pallavi.
the chat as well from Surya.
Yeah, any experiences of facilitating for other educators? Surya, can you please elaborate on your question?
So this workshop was mainly attended by kids, right? The summer workshop that we've been talking about. So I was
Right.
just curious if there were any educators or other birders who want to take this up to other kids. So how was the experiences of facilitating to them? Because they would also like how we are having this session. Have you both done this in person? Is what I'm trying to ask.
I personally haven't conducted this for other facilitators, but it is something not for facilitators, but adults have shown a lot of interest in this kind of workshop. And who knows, some of those adults will go on to facilitate these workshops in the future. So I am actually planning to, I'm planning this more longer term bird course based on this material with kids as well as for adults. But yeah, as of now, I haven't done it for facilitators.
Surya, also, Early Bird conducts workshops called How to Be Birding Buddy, which is for facilitators or educators. So they do announce it regularly across the different cities, not too frequently, but if you can get in touch with the team, you can also join that where they will help teach different ways in which you can take birds to children. I think Shruti can elaborate more on that. Somebody from Early Bird team.
Yes. Yes, Surya, we do regularly do workshops for educators, like Chandu said. I have pasted a link in the chat, which has recordings of some of our past workshops, so you can check that out.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Because I've been asked to engage with teachers of government schools. In Tamil Nadu, we have something called green schools, where kids have a campus that is more sustainable in nature. There are gardens, there are solar and stuff. So I'm trying to find out how I can take this to the teachers of those schools so they can continue doing it for their kids.
Okay, yeah, that will be amazing. So we have content that we use for this workshop. You can check out the list that I sent you, and if you need any more content, you can reach out to us.
Yes.
Um, and there is also Angeline Mano in Salem who has
Yes.
done workshops for children in government schools. So she might also be able to give you some tips if you connect with her if you haven't already.
Yeah, I have just texted her a while ago, but yeah,
Okay,
I'll connect
okay,
with her as well.
great.
Thank you so much.
Yes, all the best.
This
Okay,
is
any
Priya. Can
other
I speak?
questions? Yes, hi Priya.
Ah,
Go ahead.
hi. Not a question, but I would like to share something also. Especially, Megha had talked about the children being distracted and the chit-chatting happening, no? So I just would like to share what worked for me. I do nature awareness sessions with children in a special school. So generally, what helps a lot is setting ground rules in the beginning, which is more or less given by the children, no? So if something is being shown, what should we do? Asking them questions so they come up with the rules. So when we are going out, how should we go? So what should we be looking at when something is being shown? Can we look? So we make it fun also. Can we look here? Like look at the ceiling, look this side, look that side, and say, can I look here? Can I look there? When you're showing something in the hand. So they'll all laugh and say no. And so then you ask, where should you look? And they point to. This is done indoors first, the ground rules. So they know that when something is being shown in the hand, they have to look at the hand. Similarly, on the board, if I've drawn a bird on a so they kind of tune themselves into that. Okay, when something is being shown here, that is where we need to be looking one thing, and so they tell us. So you're kind of eliciting the rules from their mouths. So it's not like you are imposing it on them, and it's something that they have themselves said they would like to follow to benefit from the session, kind of a thing. So when you're out on the field, you don't need to say, look here, listen here, or any of the telling. You just have to do the asking. Okay, we all agreed. No, where should we look when something is being shown? Or if they're making noise when the bird is there. Okay, we all agreed. How are we supposed to be when there's a bird around? So they immediately all start shushing or talking very softly or going willfully quiet, things like that. So setting these ground rules helps a lot in your being able to make them get the full benefit. So that I found helped a lot. And also I work on the children themselves other than doing the nature thing. So the children start having a lot of confidence, and because they realize that I can follow rules, and where they've been, always been labeled as children are boisterous or this or that. So they start realizing that they are capable of taking decisions, on their own, from in their inner decision making happens, not imposed decision making or instruction following. So they are more than willing to follow something that has already been discussed, saying, I know how to do, so I'm going to do it. And it's my decision to follow or look where is what is being shown or listen to what is being said, things like that. So that I found is very effective, where you give the ground rules, and then all of later, if at all something is not being followed, you just have to ask. Don't tell, just ask, and they immediately, from within themselves, they'll answer it and follow what they have answered in their head. So that is something I thought I'll share, because this is a very common thing when you're taking children, on how to manage the logistics of getting the attention so that they benefit from it. Thanks.
Thanks for sharing that, Priya. May I ask which age group of were you working with when you tried this?
So I work with all age groups, right from very small children to teenagers and about teenagers also. And it works for all of them. So it works for all of them, because it becomes very easy that, especially some of the children who are kind of little hyperactive and all, for you to be all the time controlling their movement, they don't like it. But when they do it for themselves, no, just because you're asking that question instead of giving them or telling them an instruction, they automatically follow. And it's not only with special children. I use this with anyone and everyone, and it works wonders. So and focus on what you, second thing is focus on what you want, not on what you don't want. So rather than saying, let's not make noise, if you focus on, let's all keep quiet because the bird is there, then the focus of the brain becomes the keeping quiet rather than the noise. So it's easier for them to follow that instruction. So these two things help a lot with any age children of any kind.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll try that out next time for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Priya.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Priya. Okay, it's 12 o'clock. Do we have any other questions? We can take one last question if there is any. Okay, no questions. Okay, that's it then. Thank you so much, Megha and Chandu, for sharing all your challenges, learnings, and so many tips. And thanks to Tanmay from the Early Bird team for supporting us from the back end today. And thanks to all of you who joined us today. And we really look forward to seeing some of your own workshops coming up soon. I will send an email with all the resources that we discussed today. And that's it. Thank you and have a fantastic weekend. And bye for one. Bye for now. Bye
Thank you
bye.
all for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye. Have a good weekend.